Millionaire CEO's contract wedding to save his mother's heart, but bride saved his instead. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us get back to our main characters. It all began on a rainy night in Manhattan. The glass windows of Hunt Corporation's top-floor office blurred with raindrops as lightning flickered across the skyline. Adrian Hunt, 34, CEO of the billion-dollar Hunt Enterprises, stood by the window in silence. His phone vibrated again, another message from the hospital. Condition worsening. Surgery must happen soon. He closed his eyes. His mother's heart had been failing for months, and the doctors warned her emotional stress could be fatal. She had one final wish to see her only son married before her surgery. But Adrian had no one. He was married to work, to deals and deadlines, not people. So he made a decision that shocked even himself. A knock on the glass door pulled him back. "Come in," he said, his tone clipped, calm. The woman who stepped inside was not dressed for the world he ruled. Lily Tran, 28, a community art teacher with paint still staining her fingertips, held her worn leather bag close to her chest. "Mr. Hunt," she greeted nervously, her voice trembling. "Your assistant said you wanted to see me about a donation?" Adrian studied her, his eyes unreadable. "Not exactly," he said. He motioned to the chair across his desk. "Please sit." The silence between them was thick, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder. "I understand your art center is closing," he began. "You need $60,000 to keep it open." Lily's heart sank. "Yes, but I am not here to beg, Mr. Hunt. I was only hoping—" He raised a hand, stopping her. "I am not asking you to beg. I am offering a deal." He slid a sleek folder across the table. Her eyes flicked to the title printed in gold letters. Asterisk Marriage Agreement. Asterisk, a deal? She whispered. "What kind of deal?" "A contract marriage," Adrian said plainly. 6 months. Appearances only. You will attend a few public events with me, sign some papers, and live at my estate. In return, I will fund your art center completely. Lily froze, trying to process his words. "You cannot be serious." "I am," he replied. "My mother's health depends on it. Her doctors say she needs peace of mind, to believe that her son has found someone who cares for him. So you want me to lie to your mother," she said quietly. "I want you to help me save her," Adrian answered. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the glass like a heartbeat. Lily looked down at the folder, her reflection trembling on its glossy surface. "Why me?" she asked softly. Adrian hesitated for the first time. "Because you are honest, and because I know you will not fall in love with me." That last line hit her harder than she expected. She stood slowly, her chair scraping the marble floor. "I do not even know you." "You do not need to," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Everything you need to know is in that folder." She looked at him, this man with eyes like winter steel, too composed, too distant, and yet there was something broken behind his confidence. "Think about it," he added. "You have until tomorrow." Lily left the office, the contract folder pressed against her chest. Downstairs, the city roared beneath the rain, taxis splashing through puddles as the lights of Manhattan blurred into streaks of gold and red. Somewhere between fear and disbelief, a question echoed in her mind. Asterisk. What kind of man buys a marriage to save a mother's heart? Asterisk. But what she did not know was that in less than 24 hours, she would sign her name beside his and begin a story that would change both of their lives forever. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the narrow blinds of Lily's small apartment. She had not slept all night. The folder still sat on her kitchen table, the words marriage agreement glinting faintly under the light. Coffee gone cold beside her, she kept rereading the same line. Term of contract 6 months. Her phone buzzed with a message from the art center's landlord reminding her of the unpaid rent. $60,000. The number felt like a wall she could never climb. She stared at the contract again and whispered, 6 months is not forever. Hours later, she stood outside the Hunt Enterprises building again, clutching the folder. Her reflection in the glass doors looked smaller than she remembered, swallowed by the skyscraper's height. Inside, the same assistant led her through the quiet corridors lined with silver and glass. Adrian was already waiting in his office, a cup of untouched coffee on the table. He looked up as she entered, his expression unreadable. "You came back," he said. Lily nodded slowly. I have thought about your offer. He leaned forward slightly. And? She swallowed. I will do it. But on one condition. You will not ask me to lie to your mother about who I am. His eyes narrowed just a little, impressed by her courage. Fair enough, he said. You will be Lily Tran, the woman who saved my life from workaholism. That should satisfy her curiosity. His tone was dry, but there was the faintest trace of irony beneath it. He pulled the contract from his briefcase and handed her a pen. Her hand trembled as she signed her name next to his. The pen slipped slightly, leaving a streak of purple ink on the paper. Adrian glanced at it, his voice calm. Paint on your fingers again? It never comes off, she said softly. It is who I am. Then leave it, he replied. It makes this deal human. Within an hour, the marriage license was filed, notarized, and sealed. By afternoon, they were standing in a quiet courthouse room, the clerk reading from the standard vows with mechanical precision. There were no flowers, no music, no witnesses except the lawyer and a secretary. When the words husband and wife echoed through the sterile air, Lily's heart pounded with disbelief. Adrian slipped a simple silver band on her finger. It felt cold, too heavy for what it represented. As they stepped outside, the city noise swallowed them again. You do not have to move in tonight, Adrian said. Tomorrow my driver will pick you up at 9. Lily nodded, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. What should I tell people at the art center? Tell them the truth, he said. That someone believed in your work. She searched his face for emotion, but his expression remained steady, unreadable. He turned away toward his car, rain starting to fall once more. And Lily, he added without looking back, do not expect fairy tales. That night, Lily packed her small suitcase with more nerves than clothes. A sketchbook, 3 brushes, and the silver ring on her finger. She could still hear his voice in her mind, sharp, distant, disciplined. Yet something in his eyes earlier had not matched his tone. It was loneliness, maybe fear. As the city lights flickered through her window, she whispered, 6 months. Across town, Adrian sat alone in his penthouse, overlooking Central Park. The marriage certificate lay on the table beside a glass of untouched whiskey. He stared at the signature, her name written with a streak of purple ink. It stood out against the sterile black lines, like a heartbeat on paper. He reached for his phone, hesitated, then opened a hidden folder of old photos his mother, smiling, holding him as a boy, before his father's death turned him into steel. He had built an empire from that grief. Yet tonight, the empire felt empty. He looked again at Lily's signature and murmured, I hope this lie saves her. Somewhere deep inside, he knew the lie might end up saving him instead. The following morning, a black car waited outside Lily's apartment exactly at 9 o'clock. The driver stepped out, holding an umbrella, and said politely, Mrs. Hunt, Mr. Hunt asked me to take you home. The title sounded strange, unreal, almost theatrical. Lily climbed into the car, her small suitcase on her lap, the city sliding by in gray motion as they drove uptown. When the car finally stopped, her breath caught. The Hunt estate stretched before her like something from another world, a stone mansion surrounded by manicured gardens, tall glass windows reflecting the late morning light. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lavender and wealth. A housekeeper greeted her with a kind smile. Welcome, Mrs. Hunt. Your room is on the east side. The word room reminded her it was not a home. Adrian appeared at the top of the grand staircase, dressed in a gray suit, his composure unshakable. You are here, he said. Let me show you around. His tone was polite, distant, the voice of a man who managed everything like business. She followed him through the long hallways, marble floors echoing under their steps. This will be your room. We will attend a dinner at the end of the week. My mother will be there. Until then, learn the layout, meet the staff, and stay out of the press. Understood, Lily said quietly. And one more thing, he added. Our agreement includes 5 public appearances together. I will have someone help you prepare for them. That someone turned out to be Isabel, his mother's personal assistant, elegant and warm in a way that put Lily slightly at ease. Over the next few days, Isabel taught her how to walk in heels, how to smile for cameras, and which fork belonged to which course. Lily tried, stumbled, and laughed at herself often. Sometimes she caught Adrian watching from across the room, expression unreadable, but his eyes softened for a second before he turned away. On the 4th evening, Isabel brought in several gowns for her to try. One of them was soft lavender silk, simple but graceful. This one feels like you, Isabel said, pinning the waist. Not too loud, not too quiet. Lily smiled faintly. It reminds me of the paint I used for the children's mural. Adrian entered just then, checking his watch. We are leaving in 20 minutes, he said, his tone efficient. But when his gaze landed on her, he paused. For a heartbeat, the room fell silent. Lily shifted under his stare. Is something wrong? She asked. No, he said slowly. Just unexpected. The drive to the dinner was quiet except for the faint hum of the engine. Lily looked out the window at the city lights, her nerves twisting. Your mother will be there? She asked. Yes, Adrian replied, his voice lower now. Do not be afraid. She is kind, just fragile. The banquet hall glittered with chandeliers and people in designer clothes. Cameras flashed as they entered. Adrian's hand rested lightly on Lily's back, a gesture meant to look affectionate but surprisingly steadying. Guests turned to look at them, whispers following. At the center table sat Mrs. Evelyn Hunt, elegant yet pale, her eyes brightening when she saw them. Adrian, she said smiling, you finally brought her. Lily bent down, greeting softly. It is an honor to meet you, Mrs. Hunt. The older woman studied her face with a tenderness that caught Lily off guard. You are even lovelier than in the photos, she said. I knew my son would not choose someone ordinary. Adrian cleared his throat. Mother, do not tire yourself. Nonsense, Evelyn said, taking Lily's hand. I want to know everything about you. Through the dinner, Lily answered gently, her honesty disarming. She spoke about teaching art, about children who painted dreams they could not afford to live. Adrian listened, something shifting quietly inside him. When a man at the next table made a snide remark about charity marriages, Adrian's jaw tightened. Before he could respond, Lily spoke first. Art is not charity, she said calmly. It is hope with color. The table fell silent. Even Evelyn smiled proudly. Later that night, as the guests left, Evelyn whispered to her son, She is good for you, Adrian. I can see it in the way you look at her. Adrian did not reply, but when he glanced at Lily across the hall, laughter flickering on her lips as she thanked the servers, his mother's words stayed with him. Outside, rain began to fall again, steady and soft. As they walked to the car, Lily tilted her face up toward the drizzle. Seems like the rain follows us, she said lightly. Adrian looked at her, his voice quieter than before. Maybe it is washing something away. For the first time, she saw him smile. A small, real smile, and for a moment, the contract between them felt like something else entirely. Over the next weeks, the mansion turned from a silent museum into a place of quiet tension and slow change. Every morning, Lily joined Adrian for breakfast at the long dining table where the distance between them always seemed larger than the space itself. The meals were prepared by chefs, served in polished silver, yet she often noticed he barely touched his food. One morning she said softly, You work so much you forget to eat. He looked up from his laptop, faint amusement crossing his face. I forget many things, Mrs. Hunt. She smiled gently. Then let me remind you. Later that day, while Adrian attended meetings downtown, Lily explored the garden with a sketchbook in her hand. The place was breathtaking. Rose hedges, marble fountains, and a view of Central Park in the distance. She drew quietly, losing herself in color and light, unaware that Adrian's mother was watching from the terrace. You are the first person to sit there in years, Evelyn said, stepping closer. My husband built that bench. Lily smiled, closing her sketchbook. It is peaceful here. I can see why he did. Evelyn's eyes softened. My son has not smiled like he did that night in a long time. You have a way of pulling light into dark places. Lily's cheeks warmed. I am just trying to do my part. That evening, when Adrian returned home, his mother told him, She makes this house feel alive again. He said nothing, only nodded, but something in his chest stirred uneasily. Days passed. The next public event was approaching, a charity gala hosted by Hunt Enterprises to fund hospitals. Isabel helped Lily practice her speech, correcting posture and tone. Remember, she said, you do not have to be perfect. You just have to be sincere. On the night of the gala, the ballroom shimmered with golden light. Reporters lined the red carpet, eager for a glimpse of the mysterious new Mrs. Hunt. Adrian offered his arm. Ready? He asked. No, she admitted honestly, but I will try. He leaned closer and whispered, That is all I need. The cameras flashed as they entered, the crowd murmuring in admiration. Lily's lavender gown caught the light like a memory. During dinner, executives and donors mingled, laughing over champagne. But then one voice cut through the noise, a board member named Mr. Langley, known for his arrogance. So this is the woman who tamed our stone-hearted CEO. he said loudly. Tell me, Mrs. Hunt, is this marriage as profitable as it looks? The table went quiet. Adrian's hand clenched around his glass, ready to speak, but Lily beat him to it. Profit comes in many forms, Mr. Langley, she said evenly. Sometimes it is measured in the number of lives a donation saves, or the smile of someone who gets a second chance. I think that is good business. Her voice was calm, but strong, and the nearby tables applauded softly. Adrian looked at her, his usual restraint slipping for the briefest moment. Pride flickered in his eyes. When the speeches began, Lily stepped onto the small stage to thank the donors. Her hands trembled at first, but when she saw Adrian watching, steady and quiet, she found her rhythm. Art and compassion, she said, are two languages that heal hearts. Tonight, we are here to build hope for those who have none. The audience rose in applause. Afterward, as the gala ended and guests drifted away, Adrian joined her by the balcony. You handled that better than most politicians, he said. You believed in me, she replied softly. That helped. He shook his head slightly. No, you believed in yourself. I just watched it happen. The air between them changed, subtle but undeniable. The city stretched below, 1,000 lights reflected in her eyes. He found himself saying what he had not said in years. Thank you, Lily. She smiled. For what? For making this feel less like a contract. For a long moment, neither moved. Somewhere behind them, a slow song began to play, and Adrian extended a hand. One dance, he said quietly, for appearances. She hesitated, then placed her hand in his. They swayed gently under the soft light, the hum of the city blending with the music. For the first time since the agreement began, Lily forgot to count the steps, and Adrian forgot the rules. When the song ended, they stood close, breathing the same quiet air. He released her hand slowly and said, almost to himself, You are trouble, Mrs. Hunt. She laughed, a soft sound that echoed like something alive in the empty hall. And for once, the man who built his life on contracts did not want this one to end. The following weeks passed in a rhythm that neither of them planned but both began to feel. Each morning Adrian found Lily in the garden, sketching quietly while sunlight filtered through the trees. She would glance up, smile, and he would linger longer than necessary before leaving for work. The staff noticed it first, whispering that the mansion felt lighter. Even Evelyn, his mother, seemed stronger. Her doctors said her heart rate improved, and she insisted on daily walks with Lily. You have brought laughter back into this house, Evelyn said one afternoon, resting on a bench. When Adrian was a boy, he used to draw beside me. Then life took his colors away. Maybe you can give them back. Lily looked down, her voice soft. He has them still. He just hides them behind walls. That night, Adrian returned from the office late, his tie loosened, eyes tired. He found Lily asleep on the sofa, sketchbook open on her lap. On the page was a drawing of him, not the cold CEO the world saw, but a man standing alone at a window, light falling across his face. He stared at it for a long time before closing the book gently. The next morning he left a note on her desk. For the children's art supplies. A. She smiled when she saw the donation receipt attached, knowing he had quietly funded her students' new program. Days later, another public appearance approached, this one at the Hunt Enterprises annual board meeting. Lily sat beside Adrian at the long table, surrounded by directors in dark suits. The agenda was full of numbers and projections until one member, Mr. Langley again, leaned back and said loudly, While our CEO parades his new wife for sympathy, the company's reputation wavers. Should we really trust this? Emotional decision-making? The room went still. Adrian's hand froze over his pen. Before he could respond, Lily placed her hand gently on his arm and stood. If caring for your family is considered weakness, she said, her voice clear, then perhaps compassion is the strongest investment you can make. She looked around the room, because without it, even the most successful company will eventually collapse under its own emptiness. Silence followed. The oldest board member finally nodded. Well said, Mrs. Hunt. After the meeting, Adrian walked beside her through the corridor. You did not have to speak, he said quietly. I know, she answered, but I wanted to. His gaze softened. You keep surprising me. Maybe you just never expected kindness to be part of business, she said, smiling. That evening, Evelyn invited them for dinner in the garden. Lanterns hung from the trees, flickering softly. You two look good together, she said, reaching for her son's hand. When this surgery is over, I expect to dance at your real wedding. Adrian's expression tightened for a second, the reminder of their lie pressing against his chest. Lily felt it too, a heaviness behind her smile. After dinner, as they walked back inside, she said quietly, "You should tell her the truth soon." He exhaled slowly. "I will, after the surgery. She needs peace, not disappointment." "And what about you?" she asked. "When will you stop pretending?" He met her gaze, and for once, the armor slipped. "Maybe when pretending starts to hurt." Later that night, Lily stood on the balcony outside her room. Rain had begun again, soft and steady. She could see the faint light from his study window, where he sat working even at midnight. Without thinking, she painted the glow of that light, the reflection of the rain, the loneliness that wrapped around both of them. When she finished, she whispered, "This is not just a contract anymore." Across the hall, Adrian rubbed his temples, unable to focus on the documents in front of him. He glanced toward the door, as if sensing her through the quiet. For reasons he could not name, he felt drawn to her presence, her warmth, her belief that even broken things could still be beautiful. Somewhere in the stillness, a new truth began forming in his mind, a truth that neither business deals nor contracts could contain. He was falling in love with her, and deep down he feared it was already too late to turn back. The night after Evelyn's dinner, the rain poured heavier than before. Adrian stood by his office window, watching the storm blur the skyline. His reflection looked foreign to him, softer somehow. He could still hear Lily's voice telling him to stop pretending. Her words haunted him more than the sound of thunder. He turned when a faint knock echoed through the hall. Lily stood there in a pale robe, holding 2 cups of tea. "You looked awake," she said quietly. "I thought you might need this." He accepted the cup, their fingers brushing. The touch lingered longer than it should have. "Thank you," he said. "You should be asleep." "So should you?" she replied with a small smile. They stood near the window, the storm painting streaks of light across the glass. For a while, neither spoke. Then she asked softly, "What were you like before all of this?" He hesitated. "You mean before the company?" "Before the walls," she said. He exhaled slowly. "I used to draw. My mother taught me. After my father died, I stopped. I decided the world rewards control, not color." She looked at him, her eyes kind. "Then maybe you should start again." "It is not that simple," he said. "Nothing is," she replied. "But healing never is." Her words settled between them like a quiet truth. The clock ticked softly, and for the first time Adrian allowed himself to look at her not as an arrangement but as a person who saw through him. The moment broke when his phone buzzed. A message from his assistant flashed. "Langley meeting tomorrow urgent." Adrian's expression darkened. "It seems peace never lasts," he murmured. The next day, the boardroom air was cold. Langley arrived with a smirk and a folder full of photos. Lily at the art center, children hugging her, headlines reading, "Teacher turned CEO's wife." "The press will love this," Langley said. "A fake fairy tale. Unless, of course, you step down and let someone more focused take charge." Adrian's jaw tightened. "You are threatening me with gossip?" Langley's smile widened. "Not gossip. Proof. Your marriage is a contract. You think I will not find out? I have friends at City Records." Adrian's blood ran cold. The contract was sealed, but exposure would destroy his mother's fragile calm before her surgery. That night he drove home in silence, the city lights flickering like shards of broken glass. When he arrived, Lily was waiting in the foyer. "You look pale," she said, stepping closer. "What happened?" "Nothing you need to worry about," he answered, too quickly. She frowned. "You are lying." He turned away. "It is part of what I do best." She reached for his hand, stopping him. "You do not have to protect me by shutting me out." "You do not understand," he said sharply, pulling away. "If this leaks, my mother could." He stopped, his voice cracking. Lily's eyes softened. "Then let me help." He shook his head. "You have done enough." He walked past her, leaving her standing in the quiet hall, the weight of unspoken truth pressing down between them. Later that night, she found him on the rooftop terrace, rain still misting the air. "If you think pushing me away will fix things, you are wrong," she said. "You once told me healing takes work. Let me be part of that." He looked at her, torn between fear and longing. "This was never meant to become real," he whispered. "But it is," she said, "whether you admit it or not." For a moment the wind carried their silence. Then he stepped closer, his voice low. "If anything happens, if they go public, I will take the blame. You walk away clean." "No," she said firmly. "We walk through it together." The conviction in her voice shook him more than any threat could. For a heartbeat, he wanted to believe her. But somewhere deep inside he knew the storm was only beginning. Below them, the city pulsed with life, unaware that tomorrow their secret would be tested in the harshest light of truth. The next morning, the storm had passed, but a heavier silence filled the mansion. Adrian barely spoke at breakfast, his mind elsewhere, calculating damage and strategy. Lily watched him, knowing he was retreating behind the same walls he had just begun to lower. By noon, the first headline appeared online. Millionaire CEO's contract marriage a lie for sympathy. The article showed snippets of the agreement, photos of their courthouse wedding, and speculations about manipulation and fraud. Within hours, Hunt Enterprises' stock dipped, and phone calls flooded in. In the middle of chaos, Evelyn's doctor called. Her blood pressure had spiked after reading the article. She was being taken to the hospital for monitoring. Adrian's face drained of color. He grabbed his coat, muttering, "This is my fault." Lily followed without hesitation. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and fear. Evelyn lay pale but conscious, her breathing shallow. "Adrian," she whispered, "tell me it is not true." He froze, unable to form words. Lily stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "It started as a contract, Mrs. Hunt. But it is not anymore." The older woman looked between them, tears gathering in her eyes. "Do you love him?" Lily nodded. "Yes. And he loves you too, more than he knows how to show." Adrian turned toward her, shock and gratitude tangled in his expression. Evelyn smiled faintly. "Then that is all I need to hear." Moments later, doctors ushered them out for tests. In the waiting room, Adrian sat in silence, elbows on his knees. "You did not have to lie for me," he said finally. "It was not a lie," she replied. "You think this was just business, but somewhere along the way, it became real for both of us." He looked at her, eyes raw. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Then do not," she said softly. "Stop fighting what is already true." Before he could answer, Langley arrived, smug and composed. "Quite the scandal," he said. "I warned you, Hunt. Step down now, or I release everything, the financial records, the clause about compensation, all of it." Adrian rose, anger flashing through his control. "You will not destroy my company or my family." Langley laughed. "It is already done." He turned and walked away, leaving a chill in his wake. Later that evening, Evelyn was moved into intensive care. The doctors said stress had triggered her heart condition again. Standing outside the glass wall, Adrian felt the weight of every decision crush him. Lily touched his arm gently. "She needs you calm," she said. "Do not let him win." Adrian nodded slowly, his voice breaking. "I thought I could control everything, but now I realize I have been the fool." Lily's hand lingered on his sleeve. "Then stop being the man who hides behind control. Be the man your mother raised you to be." Her words cut through the haze of guilt like light through smoke. For the first time, Adrian knew what he had to do. Tomorrow, he would face the world not as a CEO protecting his empire, but as a son and a man ready to tell the truth. The following morning, the world watched as cameras lined the steps of Hunt Enterprises. Reporters shouted questions, microphones rose above the crowd, and flashes lit the gray sky. Inside the lobby, Adrian adjusted his tie before walking to the podium. His face was pale but steady. Lily stood behind him, her hands clasped, her heart pounding. "Good morning," Adrian began, his voice calm but firm. "The story circulating in the media is partially true. Yes, my marriage began as a contract. It was never meant to deceive investors or the public, but to comfort my mother, who has battled a severe heart condition. I did what I thought was right to give her peace." Reporters whispered, cameras zooming in. He continued, his tone softening. "But somewhere along the way, something unexpected happened. The woman I married taught me what honesty, compassion, and love truly mean. She reminded me that success means nothing if you lose your heart trying to protect it." He looked toward Lily, his voice breaking slightly. "So if anyone deserves blame, it is me, not her." The crowd fell silent. A journalist called out, "Are you saying you fell in love with her?" Adrian's answer was simple. "I am saying she saved my life." Gasps rippled through the room. Then, before anyone could respond, he turned the announcement into something no one expected. "To prove that truth matters more than image, I am establishing the Lily Art Foundation, dedicated to supporting art programs for underprivileged schools. It will be funded entirely from my personal assets, not the company's." He placed signed documents on the podium for all to see. The tension broke as cameras flashed again, but this time the tone had changed. Outside, the headlines shifted within hours. CEO confesses, turns scandal into legacy. Lily met Adrian's eyes as he stepped down. You did not have to name it after me, she whispered. I did, he said. Because you gave me the courage to be human. They left the building to find dozens of children and teachers from her art center waiting with handmade signs painted in bright colors. One little girl ran forward holding a canvas with purple streaks across it. We made this for you, Mrs. Hunt. Lily knelt, tears filling her eyes. It is beautiful, she said. You remembered the color. Of course, the girl said. It is the color of hope. Adrian watched quietly, his expression softening into something unguarded. As they returned to the car, he said, I do not know what happens next, but for once, I am not afraid to find out. That evening, back at the hospital, Evelyn was resting peacefully. The doctor smiled. Her heart responded well. She is stronger than we expected. Adrian sat by her bedside, taking her hand. You were right, Mother. She was the one thing this house was missing. Evelyn opened her eyes briefly, her lips curling into a faint smile. I always knew love would heal more than medicine. Lily stood beside him, her fingers brushing his. The monitors beeped softly, steady, alive. In that quiet room filled with antiseptic and warmth, the world outside no longer mattered. For the first time, Adrian felt free. A few months later, spring returned to New York with soft sunlight and blossoms lining the streets. The Hunt estate was no longer silent. Laughter drifted through the garden, where Evelyn now walked slowly, stronger each day. The Lily Art Foundation had launched its first public exhibition, hosted in a glass atrium overlooking Central Park. Children from the art programs had painted the walls with bright colors, and the main piece, a mural of purple strokes, shaped like intertwined hearts, stood at the center. Lily adjusted the frames one last time before the event began. Adrian approached quietly, dressed simply, no tie, no boardroom mask. You still correct everything yourself, he said. She smiled. Old habits. I cannot help it. Neither can I, he replied. But I am learning. When the doors opened, guests filled the hall: journalists, teachers, investors, and children. Adrian walked to the microphone. Months ago, he began, a mistake brought two strangers together. What began as a lie turned into a lesson about truth, forgiveness, and love. This foundation exists because one woman refused to let the world make her small. He turned toward Lily. She taught me that real strength is not about control but about compassion. Applause filled the room. As the lights dimmed for the mural reveal, the projector played clips from the children's art classes. Adrian leaned closer to her and whispered, I never thanked you properly. She tilted her head. For what? For saving my heart when I was too afraid to use it. She laughed softly. You are doing better now. Not yet, he said. There is one more thing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught. Adrian's no contracts this time, he said. No conditions. Just a promise. He opened the box, revealing a ring of simple elegance, engraved inside with the words Times. For the rest of our story. Asterisk. The guests gasped as he went down on one knee. Lily Tran, will you marry me not for appearances, not for duty, but because you are the only truth I have ever known? Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Applause erupted, echoing through the atrium. Evelyn wiped her eyes from her seat, whispering, finally. As Adrian slipped the ring onto Lily's finger, the mural behind them lit up, the purple strokes glowing in the spotlight. It looked like the mark of their beginning, the paint stain from that first contract now reborn as a symbol of love. Later that evening, as the guests departed, Adrian and Lily walked through the garden, the city lights twinkling beyond the trees. So this is it, she said. The end of the story. He smiled, taking her hand. No, Lily. This is where it truly begins. They stood beneath the blooming magnolias, the air scented with spring and rain. And for the first time in their lives, there were no secrets, no contracts, only a future built on truth. The screen fades to black with the words, Asterisk love is never about perfection. It is about courage, forgiveness, and choosing each other every single day.